Hi, my name is Tamara and I'm a mixed media artist from South Africa who lives and works in Warsaw, Poland. I am really happy that you're here today to join me in this paint and chat/lesson. And before we get into it, I'd like to just describe the concept and my idea of the brain dump and why we're doing this together. The main point of my little prompt was to make sure that you had a tool that would equip you with value and just another thing in your arsenal to help you before you came to the page. Because very often that is some of my struggle when I'm at the page and I'm thinking about 1,000 other things that need to be done. And I don't always have the ability to say, that's not important right now, let's focus on art. I need to get it down, I need to get it out of my brain. And I think in a 30-day challenge, it can be challenging. As you get to the middle, sometimes, this is my experience, I feel like I might have missed some days or there's too many days ahead and I just really get bogged down in it. And that would be the perfect time for me to dump my brain and just get it out, make a list, put it on paper. And I just wanted to make sure that you have this tool that I have, whether you know of it or not. There is definitely, I hope, something that you could take away from it. My PDF and my download is all specifically therefore weighted towards that tool and how to use it and what it entails, because to me that is the important part. But we're all artists and art journalists here and everything in between. We all want to push around paint. I would like to show you how I take one thread from my brain dump and turn that into art. This is what we're going to be painting today. It would be in your art journal, so it would fold, but for the purposes of this lesson, I've got it on a, piece of paper that was flat so we could all see what I was doing, including myself. And you can see there's a brain dump quite on the nose, and embedded into this art is a lot of my feelings, a lot of my thinking, a lot of my turmoil, and ideas, and we will definitely be going through that in this paint and chat/lesson. So some housekeeping. The PDF that you can download is for the aspect of the brain dump. This paint and chat will be you and I painting together. It is in real time. I've only really cut out the drying time and then the switching between mediums when I was pulling it out of my cupboard. So it is in real time. And if you're someone that just wants something to go quickly because that's best for you for learning, all good. I really suggest that you watch this on double speed, mute it, and maybe play some other music in the background or not. And you can just watch me doing things. I don't have text on the screen saying what supply I'm using next, but I do have in the description all the materials that I used to do this project. I am going to be talking a lot. I talk for most of the time. And I'm not just talking about what I'm doing, but I'm talking about my thinking and what things mean and how it's all coming together. And as might be visible, I hope not. And as I'm sure you can hear, I'm still recovering from a pretty long illness. And this was the best way for me to, number one, show you who I am and for us to get to know each other. And then number two, to just make it easier for myself and just create what's hopefully a mutually beneficial experience. I'm going to stop talking so we can go in, and just remember you can double speed me if you want, or you can just listen to me. I would like to do a little call of action while we're here. If you like my work, my personality, maybe that's a stretch, and if you want to see some cool art videos, I hope, in the future, then please subscribe to this channel, leave a comment, send me a message, get me on Instagram, probably the place that I'm most active. If you've signed up for my newsletter, that comes now and again. So yeah, just be prepared for quite inconsistent communication. But I do try my best, and hopefully you'll be here along for the ride when I eventually do become my best. 15 years from now. I have taped a piece of sketchbook paper to the desk. You're going to do this in your journal. I just did it this way so you could see better what I was doing. My first step is to cover the page in asemic writing, which is writing you can't really read, doesn't really look like anything specific, but it is writing. I have a mixture of actually writing and a semic, so you choose what makes you comfortable. And what I'm writing on the page is about my experience in my brain dump. I've taken a specific strain from my brain dump this morning, and it was about the concept of art, and when we speak about art, referring to artists that are sometimes quite obscure, and what the purpose of that is, because I have some thoughts about it and it makes me uncomfortable about referring to obscure artists when you speak to other people, whether it is just an unawareness that other people might not know certain artists or have this deep art education because of circumstance or because it has never been important, or whether it is just trying to make a connection. So that is my thoughts, or those are my thoughts that I'm writing down on this piece of paper. Now, it doesn't have to be a thought about art. I've done this journaling exercise about the most mundane things, like not being able to get pawpaw, which is papaya, in the store. I've written it about the trash and separating the trash and my ideas around that. And it's anything that's on your brain that you feel is the next thread you need to pull on. I'm being very untidy. You see I've dropped a lot of ink. I've put some splotches. This is acrylic ink that I'm using, and I've just dipped my pen into the acrylic ink and written. I'm going to put some ephemera onto this page now. I have these really cool calendar cards that I've been really enjoying recently, and I'm going to use that, some ephemera I saved from flowers, and some tissue paper. You can use whatever you want. You can use things with color. I just really like the idea that like my brain is a nut, so an acorn, and I tend to use, I've got a lot of this tissue paper on such things. And because it's a practice that is more often done daily, so I brain dump and I journal almost every day, I love this idea of having like some sort of calendar, like showing it's like a time passing. Now, you can use whatever ephemera you want. You don't have to put a lot of thought into it. It's going to be covered up. I just really like the idea and the thought behind it, that this page is embedded with things that have symbolism and meaning to me. All I'm doing is I'm rubbing gel medium on the back of these things. You could use matte medium. You could even use glue that is paint friendly. And I'm just smearing it. You can see, again, very untidy. I would say loose, rough. Things don't stick where I initially wanted them to stick because of the nature of the medium and because I'm not being careful. It is definitely, I don't want it to matter. I want to put thoughts into it, but it is not a thought that is going to stop my process as I'm working. If the idea of matte medium on your fingers is not a very pleasant one for you, any medium or paint, you can of course use your brushes. I don't like using matte medium on my brushes, but you're more than welcome to just make sure you rinse them properly and take care of your brushes so that they can serve you for a very long time. This is fairly wet, and I'm bringing in that acrylic ink and I'm just placing it at a diagonal to my page. So from one corner of the left-hand side to the other corner of the right-hand side. Depending on what kind of journal spread you're working on, you would just follow the diagonal of the page. I'm going to add some color to the white spaces on this page. I'm going to use orange, one of my favorite colors to use in my art, and I'm also reaching for some red. I don't necessarily choose colors based on anything, but in this particular instance, as I started putting it on the page, I realized that these are quite strong colors, and just these colors juxtaposed against the black really is kind of the emotion that I'm feeling towards this idea that I've brain dumped here. I am feeling a lot of strong emotional feelings about it. because it's talking to me about class, it's talking to me about alleged intelligence, and I don't enjoy certain aspects of those ideas, and I think it makes me feel uncomfortable, and I feel this first layer shows that. Any extra paint that I don't use, if you don't like to waste paint, I just take it and I scrape it straight onto another sketchbook page. The reason I do this is when I come to the page the next time, there's something exciting that's already there and I can use that. Okay, I've let this first layer dry and I'm putting out paints on my palette. It's teal at the top left-hand corner. Then we've got purple, green, and Paynes black and Mars black. So I've just put those two colors together. I didn't want too much black, but I didn't want it to not be black either. I'm using a brush that's generally used for watercolor. It is a round brush. It's got a very fat barrel. It holds a lot of water. I'm holding it right at the edge, at the tip, and I'm just rolling it between my fingers. Because of the size of the brush, because of the fact that it's not necessarily for this application, and because of how I'm holding it and rolling it, I don't have too much of control over what I'm doing. And I'm trying to create a flowy kind of watery looking effect around the black with my purple. It's also mixing with some of the orange, so it's graying out the purple a little bit because it wasn't 100% dried. But I really like that, and I'm enjoying looking at it, and I'm enjoying doing it. I'm going to do the same thing with my teal or turquoise, and as much water as you want, as little water as you want. I just want this free flow of color. I'm going to add green to it, and I'm going to just go between my green and my teal. I like how the green looks with the teal, and that's why I'm doing this. When I'm painting this, my thoughts aren't, I'm just going to pause. That little orange that was through the teal, I just saw this now as I'm kind of doing this voiceover. I didn't see it before, and it looked really cool. In retrospect, I maybe wish I would have left that there, but I wasn't paying attention. I was just doing. And this is kind of what I'm doing in this phase. It's quite indicative of the process. I'm not thinking as much. I'm just trying to let my hand do what it wants, let the paint do what it wants, and understand that at this point, I'm not trying to control it. I'm now going to dip back into the black, and I'm going to do a similar thing as the purple and the blue, where I'm trying not to control it too much, and I'm just rolling or pushing the paint on and getting the black section darker. I like these bold, strong colors. I'm just scraping back some of the black. It's not necessarily going to be like this at the end, but I just felt that I lost some of the orange and some of the flowers or some of the text on the actual ephemera that I put on. But you'll see it gets covered up eventually. So it's up to you. You remove and you add what you want. I have done this particular style or journal page before, and I feel very familiar with it, even though I've just done it once before. And I think that made me a little bit more confident in what I was doing, especially because I'm recording it and it always feels like I've got someone watching. But the other thing is, I think because I had some muscle memory or some remembrance about what I did, it kind of made me blind to some of the other things which were cool, like that orange that I covered up. I think I'm just still kind of feeling like, oh, I wish I didn't do that. But this is art, and I'm going to have more chances to do similar things or other things, and some I will notice and some I won't. Also, if I didn't cover up that particular orange, I might not have did other things. So I'm going to let go of that. And I hope that you can let go of anything that you do in this as well. The effect that I'm trying to create is, again, this watery, that things are mixed but they aren't really. And I'm always keeping my palette wet. I'm misting my acrylic so it doesn't dry up on me. And I'm going to let this dry. And I'm coming back with a little brush. You can see the difference in size. And now, because it's smaller, I'm going to definitely have more control. My strokes are going to be smaller as well. And I'm going to try and push it a little bit more where I want it to go now. I'm still going to hold it towards the end, and I'm still going to be doing the rolling motion, as you can see. But I am definitely more in control in this particular instance. I love using these rolling strokes, especially in my art and in my journaling. They're from an artist I really admire and respect, Beksinski, which is a Polish artist. And his rolling looks nothing like this. But I still remember the first time I saw this particular brush mark on his work, and I thought, I love it. It looks like lightning, it looks like smoke, it looks like water. Especially if you just do one strand, is very powerful. And I love that I can trace this part of my lineage, this part of my artistic expression to another artist. It just fuels my need for connection. I think it's quite ironic that I mentioned an artist, and this entire piece is about artist name dropping and like the difference between education and being pretentious. And it's quite funny, I think, that I just named an artist that some might know and some might not. And I love that. I love that in this voiceover, this is becoming full circle. And what I journaled about is something I'm doing, and I'm definitely not doing it to name all the wonderful artists I know, because I don't know many by name. I know them by work. So it's quite funny, but also nice that I can see that it's not just always about being pretentious. It's just about trying to communicate an idea. So I'm still playing around with this idea. I feel like it's like a cosmic tear almost on the paper. And I really want to come in with, I'm thinking still about those lightning lines. Like I mentioned, the artist who I want to say pull this off. He has like these lightning, like thin strips of these lines. And I'm definitely trying to do that now with some white. I'm trying to make it lightning, smoky, trying to show that it's kind of like ethereal and also like it's not permanent. And that's my idea behind employing this line. Obviously, his idea of employing it is totally different, or might be totally different. But I'm enjoying making it's almost like a mountain if you could view it in isolation, or a waterline. And I love that different pieces of the things we paint can mean different things, even when it's not really quote unquote serious art. I mean, I'm not going to put this in a gallery, but there's still a lot of thought and emotion behind what I'm doing. And I'm just really enjoying that. I enjoy this idea, it doesn't have to be on canvas. It doesn't have to be big and serious and dark. It can be silly, and it's just so much of meaning embedded in it. Oh, and just as a side note, if there is no meaning whatsoever embedded in it, no meaning that you're aware of, no meaning that you want, that is also like totally fine. Like sometimes it's just about having fun and pushing paint around. So if that's very uncomfortable to you, to give every single part of your process meaning, or to explain what it meant, or even to have awareness of what it meant, that's totally fine, because sometimes, honestly, it means nothing. I'm adding a little bit of black towards the end here. I strongly recall, I can't find the painting that I did after I scanned it in for the Get Messy thing. I lost it. I don't know if I threw it away or if it's just somewhere in a sketchbook, but I strongly remember this like black glob underneath. Like I felt like something was like seeping under and a part of something as well. Like I just have this feeling. So that's why I put this black glob at the bottom. You're more than welcome to put every glob wherever you want. And I'm going to illustrate a brain. You don't have to put it on a separate piece of paper. I like doing this. I like taking old illustrations or drawings or creating new ones, and I'm just kind of getting an eye for the space that I want the brain to occupy, and I'm going to draw a brain in the square. I'm using a Tombow marker. These are water soluble, and I already have a strong idea of a brain in my head. It's just a cloud cut in half or a walnut cut in half. And I love these hanging hands. I feel like it gives the brain some weight and it gives it some character, and also shows like kind of like some kind of listlessness. I'm also going in and putting in like squiggles just to show in the brain you have those, I don't know what they're called, but they look like worms. It's just the folds of the brain on the hemispheres. So I've put that in, I've put in some eyes. I'm going to just spray this with some water and I'm going to just go over it. It won't remove all of my lines and markings, but it is just going to activate the watercolor just so that I have no white spaces when I paint this brain. I'm going to use pink acrylic, and I'm going to fill in all those sections that I drew, and I'm doing it quite quickly, and I'm doing it's thick strokes of acrylic, but I do know that I'm going to come back on it. It's not fine, it's not necessarily precise. So using a small brush is going to help me be precise. You can see that I'm gripping it quite close to the ferrule, but not too close. And this means that I've got control, but I also know that I'm not interested in being absolutely precise. I can go over lines, it's fine. This entire painting, this entire concept, it's not precise. It gets tighter towards the end, but the looser I am when I paint, the less easy it is for me to stress over single components. This is a very different process from my usual art, which is very illustrated and tight, but I do have a lot of looseness usually in the background before I come to it. So it's just about that balance. It's just about what's easier and more pleasurable for me in this particular instance. My paint is quite dry now, and I'm going to come back with my Tombow marker and just make sure that all those lines and edges are defined. After you do this, you could stop here. I just felt that once I completed this, I wanted the lines to be less defined. And I also wanted to put on another coat of acrylic. I wanted the folds of the brain to be quite dimensional. And that felt super important to me in the moment, so I just followed it. But it might not feel important to you, so just follow what's important or what's making you happy. If you've done a traditional lesson of mine before, you will know that I am quite tight about making sure that I time-lapse things that are repetitive. I also usually, I do give out hints and tips, but I don't talk a lot about my process and my thinking. I do add some of it, but it's not too much, and I actually have quite scripted lessons. I wanted today to be different for a few reasons. Number one is I am still recovering from an illness, and I feel like I'm saying this everywhere, so please forgive me if you've heard it before. It's just been a really difficult time for me, and I think in order to totally script this and not have it as a almost a real-time lesson, I think that would have taken much more energy than my little body can handle. But the other reason I wanted to do it like this, and I felt like it kind of worked out, is if you've not heard of me before, if you haven't heard of me speaking before, if you haven't done my lessons, like, this is a time for you and I to get to know each other. Well, probably more the other way, for you to get to know me. I'm just putting some white on my palette. I'm going to add this to the eyes. I want the eyes to be white and round. I feel this is just a really nice time for you to understand my process, my thoughts, what I'm thinking, some of the worries that I have. It's quite a vulnerable thing to do for people you're potentially meeting or being exposed to for the first time. But this is who I am, especially in this moment, this particularly difficult and vulnerable time in my life, in my health. And I just felt quite led to do it this way. And I hope that you enjoy hearing me talking over everything. I'm using a Tombow marker. I will have a supply list in the description, so you can check that out. And I'm just going to add some line work here and there. I'm not doing too much, but I am adding enough to make sure that you can see that this is an illustrated character with some line work. To return to what I was saying, I think it's a nice chance for us to get to know each other, and it would be quite funny if everybody decides to follow my quick advice and not listen to this and just watch it on double speed with some music in the background, which is totally okay. But if you haven't and you're hearing my thoughts on art and my process, I'm really thankful that you're here. I'm even thankful if you're a double speeder. But I'm thankful that you're here listening to my thoughts and seeing me and witnessing me as I try something very, very new. I'm adding some thicker line work in some places. I just want to indicate weight and heaviness. So I want to do that more towards the middle of the brain. I want that thickness there. And also at the bottom, I want to show that there is weight at the bottom. The black line in the middle is just a division of the two hemispheres. My brother doesn't think this looks like a brain, but that's probably because he's my little brother. I'm also going to add some weird little lines and dots around the eyes and just on the brain, just little touches of illustration, if you will. I will cut this out once it's dry, and then I'm going to put this onto my artwork. I like it right there where it is. I feel that it leads the eye. I feel that your eye is led towards it and your eye is also led away from it. While that's chilling out, I'm going to use some of the teal, and I'm just going to add some doodles to this background. I'm adding circles because I like the look of it. You don't have to add circles, you can add anything you want. You can draw little kitty cats if that's your thing. And it also doesn't have to be confined to the edges. This is just me kind of figuring out what goes in that blank spot. I would like to mention, you can see that I'm still holding the brush quite far away. I was holding it in the middle of the actual brush, and that's again because I want to just maintain looseness. Now going for the pink that I used for the brain, and I'm just adding some spots into the blue. It's one of my favorite motifs, just circles in circles in circles. It reminds me of neurons, like brain neurons. When I first did these particular motifs with the brain, I added almost like tree branch looking things, like I think they're called axioms. And this is kind of why I did it, and I'm still thinking of it now as I paint another iteration. I thought I wanted to do like green rainbows towards the side, or like green commas. I think I'm also being influenced by some other art that I've seen this past weekend. But then I decided against it and just smushed the green around, thought I'd add it somewhere else so it didn't look odd. That was, I don't know if that's a mistake or an accident, what you want to call it, but it will either show through or it won't. That's the beauty of mixed media and journaling. I'm now adding some purple strokes, and it's just me pushing down the brush and dragging it along. I'm having fun. I can see that based on the fact that I keep on going. But this is, again, you can look at this as doodles. These are doodles done in paint, and you can do as many as you want. You can do whatever shape you want. It is just to fill in that space and add more dimension, so you can see that there's something in the background, in the foreground, and even something in the middle. So I just want to draw your attention while I'm putting in some more black. Right in the background, if you're looking at the top left-hand corner, you can see that there's writing. Then above that, you can see that there's ephemera and orange paint. And then in front of that, you can see these paint doodles that I did. And I like that. I like that. Obviously, I know what layer goes above something else, but I like that there's dimension in the painting. It's not just one coat of something placed perfectly. I'm doing what I feel are tear or raindrops coming from the brain. I really love this kind of idea that my brain is, I don't want to say bleeding, but raining. It's kind of raining ideas and raining thoughts, and I'm also just cleaning up on that black where I had the purple. I don't like it, so I'm just kind of going over it. I feel it's more dimensional if I cover it up and you don't know where the purple is. Using gel medium, I'm going to stick down my little brain. I don't know, what would you call a brain? What's a good name for a brain, Brian? No. I want to say Ben, but I'm not going to name my brain Ben in this video because it feels like a very serious decision to be making. But maybe this particular brain, his name is Ben. So let's put Benjamin, Benji, because he's cool. Let's put Benji on the page. And I'm definitely heading to a place where I'm thinking a little bit more about finishing up now. I feel like I've added these other layers, and I do want to finish up with writing like the way I started. But I also want writing to be kind of like some of the last things I do. So I'm just trying to figure out in my mind what would work the best for me right now. I'm going to come in with the Tombow marker again, and I'm just going to create some stripes in the background. So this is going to further add dimension, add a layer, push some stuff back. It's also going to make these little corners feel a little bit more finished to me. And again, if stripes are not your thing, if paint doodles are not your thing, put in what is your thing. If you're following this little paint along exactly, then you can at this point decide brains and stripes are not for me. I want to do flowers and, I don't know, rainbows. Then do flowers and rainbows. But in this particular case, I am really loving stripes. They're really showing themselves a lot in my artwork recently, so I'm just going to go with that. And I'm also, you can see that I'm cleaning out my Tombow marker because this paint is still wet. And I just want to, I don't want to use the word warning. I just want to remind you that things, when you're doing mixed media, can go onto your other media and it can cause contamination, but you can also, in this case, I'm going to just rinse my brush afterwards, the brush tip of the pen that I'm using. I feel that mixed media is a little bit more freeing and experimental, and you have to be kind of willing sometimes to get your supplies dirty, but generally they're quite fixable. You can just wash the Tombow marker when you're done. I'm coming back in with a Posca pen, and I want the pink from the Posca pen on these stripes, but I don't want it to just be Posca pen. So after a little while and seeing how scratchy and annoying it became to use the Posca pen, I decided to just push the paint out onto my palette just by knocking it onto my palette. And I'm going to use a little paintbrush and paint this pink straight into the Tombow marker pink. The final result will be that the Tombow floats almost to the top of this paint. It's a very weird and cool effect. You can also get this with watercolor inks. If you use watercolor inks and then over it paint acrylic, a lot of that ink will rise to the top and you'll be able to remove portions of it, take out portions of it, and even see it. So it's going to create an effect once it's dry where there's Tombow ink on top of the acrylic and mixed in with it. I don't know how else to describe it. It's very cool. If you do that and then like throw water droplets over it and then pat out the water, you'll have very cool like negative space of the water droplets if you ever want to try it. I'm feeling quite happy with these edges now. I feel that they're not finished completely, but they don't look unfinished. I think they look more loose, and I'm enjoying that idea. I'm enjoying the way it looks. So I'm going to leave it, but I remembered very strongly that I had some like black spots showing before through the teal. And I'm trying to recapture that. I don't know if I did a good job of it. I just remembered that orange from earlier. Maybe that would have looked cool. But I just went and I put that in. I like it. I just don't know if it was 100% the right move for me in this moment in time. But I do like it in the end. I'm using acrylic ink again on my dip pen. And now I'm writing my thoughts once again about art and artists and using artists' names and what I think about it and whether it is my own lack of education, if I would put it that way, knowing every single artist's name, whether I want to, whether I care about it. And it's just like keywords that I'm writing down. It's not even full sentences. But I definitely have more resolved thoughts, and even doing this voiceover, which is so surprising, has given me more resolved thoughts about it. So I'm going to write that down with my white ink, and then I'm going to use the white ink to start doodling. This is my favorite part. It usually takes me a long time, but for the purposes of this lesson, I kind of kept it short and sweet and hopefully quick. She says, almost 40 minutes later, full of talking. I would like to advise that your acrylic paint is properly dry when you do this. Mine wasn't, so it was clogging the nib of the pen. It's quite easy to fix, you just wipe it out. So in these raindrops, I'm doing spirals. Another motif that's really been showing in my sketching and in my doodling a lot. And it might not be spirals for you, it might not be simple things, it might be eyes or suns or hearts. Again, this is totally, it's abstract and it's up to you, it's your journal page. I'm trying to fix the eyes here, and I will actually go back to the eyes in the end. It is a little bit pink. It looks like my brain my brain has been crying or has a lack of sleep, and that is actually kind of true. But I didn't want those necessarily to be so pink. I'm adding some wings to the brain. They're fly wings. I sometimes equate my brain with like a fly. You know, flies are useful, but they're really irritating. And I'm adding splashes on my page. Then I'm going to add some more doodles onto the 2 black edges that I added, as well as those black little tears, I will say, that I put into the teal. You can see that the ephemera and the Paynes is actually making my paint like jump around, and it's quite jagged. I do like that. I do think though that I was a little bit tight here when I was doing this. I can see it, I can feel it, which is okay. Sometimes I want to be tight, but in this particular instance, I think I would have preferred to have less tightness, and I think that is definitely exhibited at the top one. The top, I don't know what we want to call it, the top doodle. Before we get there though, I'm going to fill in the blank tears. I would love to tell you what these symbolize. I am not fully aware. I feel sometimes that they're ripples because it is a motif I'm using a lot. Maybe it's an extension of the spiral, but they really remind me of mussels. So I don't know if that's the proper name for mussels, clams, but these mussels that grow, they're mussels. That's the end of it. And I don't know if this is just like hearkening. I don't know exactly where the symbolism is coming from and what it means, but I enjoy drawing it. And I don't have to know what everything means to enjoy drawing it. Like I said earlier, sometimes things mean nothing and they just look cool, or your hand just wants to do them, you know? That's fine. So you can see there's a big difference in these spirals compared to the one below. And obviously it's got to do as well with the amount of paint that's just kind of come out uncontrolled. But I really prefer the way this looks compared to the bottom. And I think it's just because I'm in a looser frame of mind. I'm appreciating loose work recently more than I am more splashes, more than I am my tight and more precise stuff. I'm now taking a Molotov marker in green. I've dipped it in water and I'm just doing the same thing where I'm pushing it around, but I made some jagged marks and I don't think that's what I want here. I know that's not what I want here. So I just used my finger and I pushed some of those jaggedness away. I made it a little bit more flowy, but I really enjoy this green with the blue and with the pink. So I'm taking it and I'm just pushing it around certain spaces, pushing it here and there, as just kind of to add that pop and more color to my painting. I'm now splashing around the green because, you know, splashes and spatters, what would art be without them? I decided I wanted more green, especially on the dots, so I'm just dipping my finger in the green very roughly. You can see now it's gone from a little bit of a tight dot to something untidy. It's become quite clear to me at this point that this is where I am just deciding what to add to the work and also what to remove. By me adding that green dot, I removed the tightness of that circle. I removed some of the pink and some of the teal, but I also added green to it. And I've technically taken away 3 things and added 1, or I've added 2 because it's also contrast. And it's definitely an addition and subtraction process. That's what art is. And it's not just an equation that you know from the start. I'm going to take this catalyst wedge that I love and I'm going to add the white acrylic into it, and I'm doing almost like a stamping motion, but I felt like I really wanted to emulate my older painting, and I remember lines. I don't know if I wrote in the lines or what it was, but I felt that I needed to break up this black a little bit more with some horizontal lines. And at this point, it might sound like very convenient, but I like this idea that there's vertical lines, there's diagonal, and there's horizontal, and also these round organic shapes. It feels very complete to me. I'm creating different colors of paint. I'm just mixing now, blue and green. It's not really something that I'm thinking about too much. There's a lot of water in it, and I'm spattering. And I want to go against the pink, and I want to get it onto the black, and I just want to make sure that we understand that there's kind of like this dust and movement happening. I love spatters. I think everybody does. So I took some of the white ink, and I'm laughing now watching this back, and I spattered it like next to the brain just to kind of give the wings a little bit more movement, those fly wings that I drew. But it was like it became a dirty gray, and it didn't excite me a lot. It was more like, oh no. So I just picked that off with my little towel. You can always pick stuff up and change it. Now I'm doing something very silly. Please do not try at home because it's very silly. I'm drying my painting while simultaneously painting the brain. I wanted to take off some of the color that I spattered on. I wanted to just get a little bit more dimension again. But I decided to do it simultaneously while drying. I do not like the sound of the dryer. I tend to put in my earplugs when I use them. I find it very painful. But I find even more painful having to wait for my painting to dry. So that's why I did that. It doesn't work. It doesn't save a lot of time. You're just watching me be very silly. I hope you enjoyed that. I'm definitely coming to the end now. I know that I need to redo the eyes and refine some of the line work probably. But I'm now looking at my painting and just kind of thinking of it. I felt strongly that I wanted more of these smoky or electric lines, whatever you want to call them. And I wanted to do them in acrylic paints because I wanted them to be very controlled, very small, but also strong. And I felt like I could really control this well using the dip pen. And here I'm doing the fly wings again. I want to make sure that you can see that. If you want a piece of advice from me, if you're interested or really interested in art in the process, record yourself doing what you do and then try and explain to yourself why you're doing it after the fact. Because I didn't even fully notice, because it's so unconscious to me, that's the reason why I took the dip pen in this, because I wanted more control, but I wanted it to be little. And I think that's just really a cool thing that I just realized in this. I mean, I've realized it before, that doing a voiceover and talking through your art is really valuable. But all the talking that I've done, for me, has been quite worth it to understand that little part at the end of my process. I'm now making little dots. I feel like, again, it's just like indicative of rain or seeds or just this idea of like cosmic dust. It represents a few things to me. I feel more in this kind of iteration. It's about seeds and rain. Also because of like the season that I'm in. But again, not everything has to mean something. It's just dots. I'm now just refining and adding more doodles. This is just me going a little bit too extra. Looking back at it, if I had to analyze and refine this painting, I wouldn't do those things that I did on the purple dots. I would actually take them out. I think it was better when it was purple. And I'm going to add some rain or seeds to the bottom of my brain, which I'm actually quite happy with. I'm happy with that choice. We're almost at the end here. I just want to make my brain a little bit more refined and bring it back again, which is going to mean doing those eyes. And I want to add some bags desperately. There we go. Because my brain has some bags under its eyes right now. This is not just thinking about art, it's thinking about a lot of things that were out on the brain dump. But the thing that felt safest for me to handle at the moment was this whole idea about artists, and the same thing I've been going on and on about this entire lesson, or this entire paint and chat. And yeah, I'm looking at this, I'm quite happy with it now. I'm going to take that paint and I'm going to just put it onto my sketchbook so it's not wasted. And if you have done this straight in your sketchbook, you're not going to be unmasking it. But if you decided to stick it to a table like I did, make sure that you heat your masking tape first and then pull this off. Otherwise, you are going to tear off paint from the side. I am notoriously bad at heating my tape. I don't know why. Don't do as I do. Do as I say. Oh, I will make a horrible parent. No. Just protect your artwork. It's your baby. So heat your tape, then pull it off. It'll just make the whole thing so much more easier and you won't struggle like you see me doing. And here's our finished painting. And we're done with the painting, which you've already seen. If you view this painting in person, which is probably not going to happen, it is very textured, but it's also quite smooth and flowy. I am quite happy with it. There are some things that I would do differently. There are some things that I maybe wouldn't force as much. I would have also liked to have left, as I'm sure I went on and on in the voiceover, some spots in between. But I'm pretty happy with it. I understand what it's about. My feelings are in here. I've processed my feelings about, as I've spoken at length, about art and artists. And it was so surprising for me to also get that like clarity and that full circle moment while doing the voiceover. Thank you for sticking around. I hope you check out my other stuff. There's lots of free resources on my website. And then I've got some videos up here on YouTube. And like I said before, maybe in 15 years I'll reach consistency. But until then, keep well, keep safe, keep on arting, keep on dumping your brain. Please remember, come and connect with me over here on Instagram. I like saying hello to people. I'm never not excited by people talking to me. And yeah, I will see you when I do. No, I'll say something cooler. Catch you on the flippity flip side.